I think true freedom starts with freedom from want and freedom from fear. So freedom without justice is impossible, just as justice without freedom is impossible.
Gerard, thank you for coming today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
May I ask you one question? From the background that you have, could you talk a little bit about what freedom means to you?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Um, Especially because I think freedom has largely been misunderstood as a concept. In the past 40 to 50 years, free markets have been promoted as the most democratic way to run society. Um, but what we've seen is that it has given more freedom and therefore more power to people who already had an advantage on the markets or in society. Um, they have been able and have been doing, they've been dictating the price for raw materials, for labor, for end products. They've been able to lobby for fewer civil rights, worker rights, and even consumer rights. Private corporations have been allowed to buy up public utilities and other companies in the public sector, and to speculate with these on the stock markets. And I mean, these are basic services like healthcare, public transport, even the water supply. You know, there are countries where people are robbed of access to fresh water because they can't afford the price that's been set for this basic human necessity. Now, as a result, this freedom that we were promised with the coming to power of neoliberal politics in the 1980s, as a result, in 2024, we live in a world where we say slavery has been abolished, but there are 50 million people who live and work in conditions of slavery, and millions more who live in poverty and starve, for lack of access to adequate food or adequate health care, under the guise of ideological differences. Wars are fought for access to seaports, to natural resources, to consumer markets, which are only enriching the mega wealthy already, those who are already mega wealthy. As a result, the world now we find again on the brink of nuclear annihilation. Is that freedom? That's how can it be freedom if this system, this whole world system, depends on the lack of freedom of so many of our human brothers and sisters? That's not. How can that be freedom? That doesn't compute in my brain. I think true freedom starts with freedom from want and freedom from fear. And this can only be accomplished, if you look at the world today, by implementing, to begin with, Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantees adequate food, shelter, healthcare and education to every man, woman and child in the world. That way, we make sure that no one is left out of basic necessities for life. Everyone has a chance for developing their talents and to contribute those talents to the common good, to the greater world, the community world around them. And that way, there will no longer be any people living in want, and they won't live in fear for where their next meal has to come from, or fear for, being bombed out of existence because some country is coming to liberate them with guns and cannons and fighter jets. So, without freedom from want and freedom from fear, there is no true freedom. And the only way to establish that is, I think, through the United Nations and the world coming together in the Parliament of Nations, the General Assembly of the UN, which must get rid of, UN needs to get rid of the Security Council, because that's only there to protect the privileges of the Western countries, the Western powers. And I think only through sharing can we bring justice to the world, because freedom without justice, as we see now, is impossible. Just as justice, look at history. Justice, the Soviet system was founded on the idea of justice. Everyone is equal, and we're going to make sure that the state provides for everyone. We know how that has failed massively. The same thing is now happening with that idea of freedom that was promoted by the United States, and it has been adopted by the whole world. So freedom without justice is impossible, just as justice without freedom is impossible. And we can only achieve that through the United Nations and the implementation of Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Thank you, Gerard. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Ever wonder what it's like to ride a motorbike all the way from Germany to India? Crazy stories, unexpected twists, and moments you won't believe are waiting in episode 1. Click now to dive into this unbelievable journey. You don't want to miss where it all began.